Hello, everybody, again. I know I've missed a day. Uh, I did fall behind a little bit on my word count for NaNoWriMo, and I needed to catch up a little bit. I haven't got nearly quite so much written as I probably should have by now. But I'm not too discouraged. I am seeing more words of anything I've ever written down on the page, and I should say of any long form work I've ever written actually down on the page. That is extremely reassuring to me. And, well, I'm just, I am so surprised at just how much one can actually enjoy writing. I haven't enjoyed writing quite as much as I have this last week, uh, ever. So this will be something to hopefully carry into the rest of my writing projects. Today, I am here with, being that it is Nonfiction November, my 10 picks for the nonfiction books, all of which I have read multiple times, that I believe you should read. A couple of these I've only read parts of multiple times, but nonetheless, uh, yes, I believe that you should read these. And a couple of these are not going to look necessarily like everybody's read, should I say. Books that everybody will just be able to pick up and enjoy immediately, but that isn't quite the point of this video now, is it? So, let's begin with the Signet Book of American Essays. Okay. The essay, I believe, is one of the most important forms that there are. And this book shows you really why that is. It gives you an excellent sampling of multiple different writers, from political figures in America to, pretty much everyone in this book, save for maybe one or two, were in one way or another visionaries. They wrote in order to show exactly what the responsibility of people is to one another. They aimed to show how everyone can, in their own way, work to benefit the collective by being an individual. It's kind of interesting. And then, in addition, there's a wonderful way that this book gives you a there's, of course, they cross time. These pieces cross time. So you get to see what the attitudes of the different writers were, depending upon their time or their personal ideology. And in reality, they were not very different from one another. That's, I think, half the point of this book. And it's you need to read this. It has pieces by Albert Einstein, Gloria Steinem, Henry David Thoreau, Martin Luther King Jr. This is definitely a book to pick up. It's cheap as cheap. This cost me $6. Pick it up. Next, Cynthia Osek's Quarrel and Quandary. This book certainly gives one a sense of responsibility to the past, to particularly the tragedies of the past, which are always very much with us, whether we like to say so or not. Holocaust deniers are among those who would like to simply forget about the horrid things that have marked our civilization in the last 150 years. But the fact is, large-scale tragedy is always here. So being aware of it, being in the way that Cynthia Osek is, a kind of living expression of its necessity to consciousness and of its real importance even to the aesthetic of thought, the aesthetic of expression, is very. You need to see this book, you need to read this book in order to get a full idea of exactly what our artistic, moral, and our really our intellectual, our spiritual responsibility is to memory. And so do pick this up if you can. It's not very big, it really isn't. And the print, here's the print. Not too much, not too intimidating really. And it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Next, seen this before on this channel, the Great Dialogues of Plato. Yes, we need, I firmly believe that we as a civilization require constant flow of deeper intellectual thinking. We need to look at all of our emotions, the things that are going on in the world around us, from the perspective of a thinker, and not simply a being thrust in the middle of a particular tragedy or difficulty without any tools. As a civilization, we have, especially now, the opportunity to really collect the things, the coping mechanisms, the real, all of the materials for building within ourselves. The individual must build within himself a kind of real, I should say, machine for endurance, a machine for coping, a machine for it is it helps us to keep all of our empathy in place, while also giving us a perspective on power, a perspective on communication, and a perspective really on any mode of life we can possibly get our hands on. The fact is that we contain all modes of life, and we contain one another. But sometimes we need to sometimes reading things like this helps us to become more aware of what we contain. That is why this is important. As I have said before, it is not correct. It is not, Plato was not right in so many of the things that he said, but that's not the point. The point is that he gets you to thinking. He gets you to going over all of the ideas that you can possibly take in at once, and then form your own opinion on it. That's what this is for. And not to mention, it is a fantastic read. Just a fantastic, for someone like me, this is just so much fun. This is so much fun. I cannot recommend this enough. And then I have this beautiful pair. Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own and 3 Guineas. A Room of One's Own, it pretty much is I think last year it was among the best-selling books in the United States. And it's the back simply says it is a landmark inquiry into women's role in society. It's a little more than that. It has so much to show us about the marginalized that it is essential. This is absolutely essential reading. Yes, she goes into feminism and liberalism, but she doesn't go into the real differences between the two and the pitfalls of both as deeply as she goes into them here. This was designed as a sequel to A Room of One's Own, 3 Guineas, and it is the perfect complement to it. If you have read this one, you have to read this one. Together they form, in my not so humble opinion, the perfect book, perfect work on the issues that we face in our current time, and the perfect work on, yes, feminism, yes, liberalism. There are many things about liberalism that Virginia Woolf did not agree with, and the thing is that as we head further into the 21st century, we need to be thinking about exactly what the dangers are of going, as one would say, too far with any particular ideology and with any particular passionate argument. There is just read these for yourself. See for yourself exactly how much probably one of the finest, one of the most accomplished writer-thinkers had to say on the concept of intellectual, moral war. This is... Read it. Read them both. Get them. Read them together. I mean one after the other. Do. And then we have A Child's History of England by Charles Dickens. Simply because this is a delight. It gives you the history of England up to Queen Victoria. Of course, it is highly opinionated. There are a few passages in here that cannot necessarily be corroborated by historians. There is some debate as to just how much of this book, although a large portion, indeed, Charles Dickens did get right. It's funny in a very sarcastic way. Dickens bites into just about every single monarch, and it's every single English monarch particularly, and even some of their French and German and Spanish alliances, associates, etc. It's just, it too, like the dialogues of Plato, it is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, especially if you just want to get lost in something that is both informative and really just, it has teeth. This thing just has teeth. And it was written for children, but this is certainly something that everybody should be reading right now. It's phenomenal. This is phenomenal. And then we have W.E.B. DuBois. I know I have this big volume of his writings, but the book that I really think that everybody should read by him is The Souls of Black Folk. It is by no means cliche of me to say so. The book itself is not a cliche. There is no, it doesn't age, it cannot age, and it really does give us a full picture of just what prejudice, what separatism, and so many other things that we are still dealing with right now really, for one, can do. It shows us their power, but it also shows us the power of expression against it. It shows us the power of a human being, even a single human being. And look at how massive this collection is. It is over, just this one collection of DuBois's writings is well over 1,000 pages. Well over. And one person can, indeed, encapsulate his or her entire time and really attempt to find a way. And even in many ways, DuBois did find solutions to a lot of the problems. However, he didn't believe that many people were ready yet to hear them. And maybe they are now, maybe they're not. Who can really say? But the fact of the matter is that all of the thoughts that anybody has on the very, very difficult current state of affairs it's important to hear. We need to continue reading all of it, continue hearing all of it. Our civilization is built upon complicated thought, and it needs to continuously circulate. It cannot be, we human beings are not meant only to feel, or only to think, or only to live, or only to contemplate. That's not how we're built. We're meant to do all things at once. And it sounds a little bit daunting perhaps, but the reality is, since we are built for it, it comes more naturally than one thinks to get into a lot of the deeper things, as it could be said. So it's important that we do that. And Du Bois definitely takes us very deep into the deep. So it's I will cherish this. I mean, the Souls of Black Folk is indeed the one I think you should read first. It itself is a rather slim volume. It's beautiful, it is thought-provoking, and it is always, again, it is always alive. There's no part of it that even in the remotest sense feels archaic. Not at all. And yes, the rest of this book is wonderful. I would recommend just picking this whole thing up. Do it. I don't see why not. And then we have The Essential Writings of Ralph Waldo Emerson. I have not completed the entire book. Actually, I should really admit that I have not completed the entire book here, but I have read a couple of the essays twice each. And what Ralph Waldo Emerson really does is he tries to show you your intellectual responsibility to yourself and to others. You are, as a person, quoted to Emerson, you are, as a person, responsible for what happens in your life, for what happens to the people in your life, to the extent that you have an ability to learn the most that you can, to become the most that you can, and then help others to see how they can do the same, to teach, to instruct, then to connect to others, and then to finally, in the end, hopefully leave an impression, and in a lasting way really help somebody, be to become the reference for someone. And Ralph Waldo Emerson is a reference for all of us. Get this giant thing. Get it. The Essential Writings, Ralph Waldo Emerson. You're going to be... I have seen evidence of this in the writings of Harold Bloom, in the writings of Cynthia Osek, William H. Gass. You are going to be going back to this for the rest of your life. Get the big giant thing, because you need it. You just need it. I didn't realize how much I needed it until I got it. Get it. Then we have a good friend of Emerson's, Henry David Thoreau, Civil Disobedience. Look how tiny this thing is. This is the Dover Thrift Edition. Cost you about $5. This is in the way of the souls of black folk. This is and it is, I mean, I do not think that for my literary studies, I got this in a pack with the souls of black folk. I do not think it was a coincidence that they came together. There were no notes on the on the collection and whatnot, the little pack of Dover Thrift Editions that I got for my high school literary studies. But like that, this never, ever, ever loses life. This is I mean, I've read it 3 times, and it's still... You need to get it. You need to get it. It's a tiny thing. If you want to read it before you read all the others that I've suggested and my final selection here, go on ahead. Especially in the time that we're living right now, this is of importance. It's of extreme importance. Thoreau believed in the individual like Emerson. He believed in the individual's responsibility to himself and to the others around him. And he believed in absolute... Emerson was a little bit softer on the reader. Henry David Thoreau believed that you need to fire people up about things. You need to get people going. And he does. He gets you going. He certainly does. He practices everything that he preaches. And get this. Just get this. Again, you need it. And finally, Henry James on culture. Henry James is not known for his political writing. He is not known for a lot of his wartime commentary, his cultural criticism. He's not really known for it. And I have no idea why. This book is one of the best essay collections I have ever read, dealing with American culture, politics in general, world politics, American politics, the psychology of the person who experiences war, who experiences even who is touched by it in a somewhat distantly. Maybe they're not directly, they're not fighting in the battles, but they're experiencing the economic issues, the fears, the domestic fears that come with the extreme expense of war, that come with the news of the constant news of death, and this has everything that we need right now. It certainly has it. Is Henry James's writing style a little bit difficult? Perhaps. And some people say unnecessarily so, but that is the point. Our job as readers, as thinkers, is to go into anything, even just like this, anything at all, and find for ourselves what works, find for ourselves using the expression of the author we are reading, the writer, historian, whoever it is that we are reading, use that to inform our own, and then form our own expression. I mean, to really we need to use our expression, and we need to be unafraid to do it. Henry James was quite I would say an extremely courageous writer, aesthetically, thematically, very. It should never be said that Henry James is an anachronism. None of his work at all reads. It's always present. Henry James is always present, and I think that in your life, he certainly should be always present. Pick this up. I mean, even if you have no prior. If you have no familiarity at all with his work, you've never read any of his fiction, you've never read his novels, you've never read any of his literary essays, book reviews, pick this one up. This one. It's not very long. It's only, what is it? Close to. It's not even 200 pages. Yeah. It's in the 180s. Definitely pick this up. Give it a go. And keep, if there are certain sentences or passages or anything that you have to reread them. Reread them to try to get their point. And even if you don't quite get what he's trying to say, because indeed sometimes he can be a little bit, shall we say, too subtle. He was called opaque he is frequently called opaque by his critics and even many of those who love him. So, yes, keep doing it, because keep trying to get through his prose, because it is worth it. It's worth every bit of your time. It's worth all of the thinking that it's going to force you to do. And it's worth, the experience of Henry James. It's like no other. It really is like no other. So anyway, those are my 10 picks for nonfiction books that you absolutely should read. I would like to do, probably within the next week or so, I would like to do the nonfiction book tag, I believe it is. This is so far, this has already been an interesting month for me in my reading, and then of course, NaNoWriMo has just made it a real a challenge and a joy. Uh, I mean, the love of writing is very complicated, as I'm sure so many of you know. And so yeah, these are my picks. Do, if you have, if you have the which I'm certain that you do in fact have the motivation to get in and really start looking for better ways of dealing with the issues of our time, good ways of trying to cope with everything, um, ways of dealing with the real answers to all of our questions. And those real answers come in many different forms. They are not often um, they're not often very clear. They're not. I mean, there's a lot that goes into the kind of writing that all of these books really contain. So it's important though to go over them. It's important to have them running through your mind so that you constantly stay thinking, so that you stay intellectually conscious. Because right now, in our current time, it's something that's definitely necessary. I mean, as Virginia Woolf said, the fight, the war, for those before us seemed as if for them it was a little bit easier. Oh, because, they were able to publish some of the things that they did that now would not be looked at, or whatever it may be. It may seem easier, but the fact is it never really was. It never was easy for any of these people to do what they did, but they did it. And all of us, I think, really, really should. And we should give their writing the time. We should give our own thought the time. Yes, there is anxiety. Yes, there is depression. There are so many things that come along with the extreme difficulties that currently we face and that we are headed into as we move further, deeper into the 21st century. So these books are a way to start collecting your materials, collecting your tools for coping, for really even rebuilding, reforming. I mean, there's a lot that right now every one of us can do for ourselves, and there are many things that we could do for one another, and these books show us exactly how we are all connected, how we, again, contain one another, but sometimes need to be aware. We need to become more aware of how much of one another we do contain. So, that is it for now. I'm going to get back to writing. And I hope that all of you are having a wonderful nonfiction November. And for those of you participating, I hope you're having a wonderful NaNoWriMo too. And I will see all of you hopefully tomorrow. We will see. We will see how my writing goes today and how much I may have to cram. how much time I may have to spend just really trying to reach my my word count for the day. So I thank you all for being here, and I look forward to talking to you in the comments.